So you're new to hunting. No one's ever showed you how to do it. No one's taken you under their guidance. You're on a 4th or 5th hunt and you just shot yourself a hog or a deer. And it ran down through the scrub, and it ran down through the swamp, and you're gonna have to blood trail that deer. How are you gonna do it? No one's ever showed you. Well, in the video coming up, I'm gonna give you tips that are gonna help you recover your hog or your deer, and tips that are gonna be useful in blood trailing your kill. And how long should you wait? How fast should you move through? What do I look for? All of that's going to be addressed in the video coming up. So here it comes. Blood trailing your deer. How to blood trail your deer. All right. See you in a minute. Alright guys, welcome to another video. I'm going to talk about blood trailing today. This deer is a Withlacoochee State Forest buck, and he's a real good buck. I killed him on private land here in Florida, and somebody asked me about taxidermy, so I wanted to show you this buck because he's my favorite mount. I don't know what you call it. He's kind of turning and looking and not full alert, I suppose, but whenever you go to the taxidermist, they're going to have a catalog there of all kind of different mounts that you can get. I would counsel you to, if it's your first deer, don't get too crazy. But I've got a lot of mounts in here that I really enjoy having, and all of them have a great memory for me. And the more diverse my mounts are, the more I like them. So you've seen my rubline buck, which is full sneak, and you've seen my Ocala buck, which is kind of got an aggressive look to him, and two of these here that are just semi-sneaks, and the one that I avoid is the one that kind of looks like a statue. You'll see mounts where the deer heads are looking straight forward and then kind of in a real high and mighty type look. That's one that I personally don't care for. I always want my deer looked and turning or some sort of active look, and this is by far my favorite. Masters Taxidermy in Ocoee did this one. Robin Kirkland in Leesburg did 1, 2 of the deer in here. Masters did a couple. Harold Toohey in Georgia did 2 of the deer that are in here. And the guy in Wildwood, I can't remember his name, did that one. So yeah, I like using different taxidermists because every taxidermist has his own personality. I think Robin Kirkland is probably due to do another one for me. So I've got 9 in here. I think I've showed you all of them, but 2. Got this one and that one. So I wanted to show you this one because it's the most unique. Anyway, we're going to talk about blood trailing. If you're new to hunting and you shoot a deer, you need to teach yourself how to blood trail. How do you do that? Well, what I like to do, and what's my practice, has been my practice for many years, is to, if I shoot a deer or a hog and I see that deer or hog go down, maybe he ran from here to there, right? And it's always been my practice to go to the spot that I saw the deer or hog standing when I shot it and survey the situation. I fully know good and well that my deer is laying over there. Okay, now I don't spend a whole lot of time doing this, but 5 or 10 minutes is time well spent, because you need to teach yourself, especially if you have no one to show you, how to blood trail. And what you learn in these moments will pay off big time one day when you're by yourself and you need to find your deer, okay? So I go to where my deer or the hog was standing and I survey the situation. I look for blood, I look for sign, I look for tracks, I look for the disturbed area, I look for anything that might be out of place because I want to become a tracker, okay? I want to become a blood trailer. I want to be good at it. I want to be better than good. It's part of being a hunter, okay? And take all the modern day tools that we use for hunting and make yourself a trailer. Make yourself a blood tracker. I can trail a deer. I can blood trail a deer. I can track a deer through any habitat at any time. And I can find my deer because I've done it. Now, there's been a few that I haven't found. But you need to practice this, okay? You need to learn the difference between stomach contents on your arrow, lung blood, when your deer is shot through the lungs and you see blood on the ground and it's full of bubbles, you know that your deer was shot in the lungs. You need to know the difference between cardiac blood, that's rich red blood, and knowing that your deer is probably dead and close by, because these are things that can help you as you just develop confidence. Now, blood trailing can be an exciting and depressing thing to do, okay? It can get really difficult when the blood trail goes dry, and it's something you need to stay after. One of my personal rules is if I shoot an animal, it's early in the morning, and I shoot an animal and I have a blood trail, okay, and that blood trail goes dry. I don't have any more blood, and I end up grid searching for my deer. The hunt is over. Okay, the hunt is over the minute I shot the arrow or shot the rifle, and now I'm looking for my deer. Okay, I don't abandon the search and then go back to hunting. I'll either continue the search or I'll go home. One of the two. Okay, so yeah, I've blood trailed maybe half a dozen deer and half a dozen hogs. So I think that's probably some pretty good experience. I've had blood trails go dry, not be able to know what direction my deer went, and the whole time the deer was dead, right? And I didn't think I was going to find it. And then all of a sudden, there it was. So blood trailing is one of those things that you need to learn, okay, and that you need to practice. And there's no better opportunity than you know your deer is laying over here, he's dead, but he was standing over here for you to get down, go where he was standing, and follow that blood trail to your deer and get that experience, okay? So I'm going to give you a little tip here about blood. When you shoot a deer and he's running through the woods and you see him go, he's leaving a blood trail. And you only see him for maybe 20 yards. And let's just say he disappears into the scrub or he disappears into the palmettos. 20 yards, okay, from impact to disappearance. All right, he's only gone 20 yards, he's gone. You need to be paying attention during that time. You need to be paying attention of where the deer was standing, where the deer ran, and the sounds that you heard after that. To be very quiet and to be listening, because you can hear the deer fall. You can hear the deer, what they call crash. If the deer crashes, there's a very good sign. That's a very good sign that your deer is laying in there, and all you've got to do is go down and go get him. All right? So how long do you wait? Well, every situation is different. If I'm sitting in my tree stand and I shoot a deer, and he gives me that old mule kick, there's another sign you need to look for. When a deer gives you a good mule kick, usually it's a fatal shot, okay? Sometimes you shoot them through the guts and they'll mule kick, okay? But sometimes they fall over and then they get up and run off, and none of that's really a good sign. But you take what you can get, right? So the deer mule kicks, runs off. You wait 30 minutes, okay? I wait a minimum of 30 minutes. I'll go back to the truck and I'll get my jet boil out and I'll have myself a cup of coffee and maybe eat my breakfast, right? To kill time. I'll go get my deer buggy, right? And then I'll kill a little time, because you need to let that deer, if he's wounded, maybe sit up for a while, 30 minutes. Okay, in Florida heat, bear country, don't wait longer than 30 minutes. If I see the deer go down and I know he's dead, I'll get down and go to him right away. But I'll blood trail him. I'll go over there and I'll look and see where the deer was standing, see where the deer went, look at the blood, and get that experience. That's how you can learn, okay? If you hunt long enough, you'll be blood trailing, and you'll learn how through experience, okay? If you hunt long enough, blood trails will dry up, and you'll still find your deer. If you hunt long enough, you'll blood trail in the dark. You'll learn how to do that. Very difficult to do. I've only done it once or twice, but yeah, it's not something I really enjoy doing. I'd rather not blood trail in the dark. I'd rather not shoot a deer right at dark, okay? So, unless I'm with people, if I got other hunters and I got a support group, well, that's a little different, you know. But if you're by yourself, hunting on public land by yourself and it's getting dark, yeah, I don't typically like to do that, but I've done it. So let's talk about blood. All right, got a little picture here. If your deer is moving through the cover, moving through the woods, and you didn't see which way he went, and you got down and you saw blood on the ground, all right? The first thing you want to look for is direction, line of travel. So how do you tell? Well, if you've got blood on grass, it's hard to tell, okay? But if you got blood on a leaf, that's really what you want to look for, is blood on a leaf. If you have a leaf like this and a drop of blood in the center of that leaf, you don't want to kick it around, you don't want to move it, you don't want to disturb it. Because when a deer is moving through the woods and the blood is dripping from its body and it strikes that leaf, that blood will splatter in the direction that deer is traveling. Because as the blood falls from the deer through space and to the leaf, it too is moving forward with the deer. If the deer was moving, let's just say he's moving at 10 miles an hour, that speckle of blood is moving 10 miles an hour when it hits that leaf. So as it hits the leaf, the blood is going to splatter in the direction of travel. So if the deer is going towards the swamp or towards the sawgrass pond or towards anything, always look up and I say, okay, there's the splatter. Look, right over there is a big oak tree. The splatter is pointing towards that oak tree. So I'm going to walk that way until I see more blood. Okay, because this blood might only be every 20 yards or so. 20 feet is pretty good. Every 10 feet is really good, right? Splatter, something you always want to look at. Gives you a line of travel. Look up, see which way that splatter is pointed, and go in that direction, okay? Another thing you want to look at is type of blood. You'll have blood with stomach contents. Sometimes you'll find stomach contents. If you gut shot your animal, there'll be stomach contents on the arrow. There'll be stomach contents in the blood. Always look for stomach contents. Looks like chewed up acorns, greenery, that sort of thing. Puddles of blood. If your deer is standing, there'll be a puddle of blood. And then there'll be the blood that's disturbed. If you see a puddle of blood on the ground and it's been disturbed, that deer is probably bedded there and then he got up. If you experience that, you probably would need to back out and give that deer time to die. You really have no way of knowing. If your deer is bedded and he's not expired and you bump him, it's going to be a long, there's a very good chance you may not recover that deer, okay? It all goes back to good ethical shots. You need to make your shot placement as critical as possible. Make it as lethal as possible, whether it be with a rifle or a bow. Never take a rifle for granted. Never think just because it's a rifle that wherever you shoot the deer. I remember when I was a kid, I thought all I had to do was hit the deer. No one ever really taught me that shot placement was so important. In whatever direction, we dog hunted and deer were running, so you just pointed at whatever. And it was a while before I learned that shot placement is what killed a deer, okay, not the gun. You got to have good shot placement. If you have a good shot placement, you won't have a blood trail, but if you hunt long enough, you'll probably have to rely on a blood trail. Now, if you're like me, I like to do a lung shot. If you get a good lung shot, if you shoot a deer 200-300 yards away with a high-powered rifle and you shoot him through the lungs, there's a very good chance that deer is not going to fall over dead. He's going to run through the trees. Now, a lung shot, when you're blood trailing a deer that's lung shot, he won't bleed right away. Many times there'll be a little bit of blood where he was standing, but then you'll look and you'll see that there's no more blood, okay? Until you get 25, 30 yards into your search, and suddenly you'll start finding blood. The deer is bleeding and he's trying to breathe at the same time, and his lungs are filling up with blood. And the blood's coming out of his nose and his mouth. Okay, I know that's kind of grisly, but it's a fact of life. Coming out of his blood and he's dribbling it on the ground. Okay, you need to know that this is what you're seeing. This is what it means to be a tracker. When your arrow's covered with stomach contents, you need to know that when your rifle, you shoot your deer too far back and he humps up rather than mule kicks. Many times that means you shot that deer through the guts rather than behind the shoulder. I shot a deer a few years back, and I blood trailed that deer, and there were just 2 or 3 drops of blood on the ground. What happened was I shot that deer, and when I did, I don't know, he was about 180 yards away, and when I shot that deer, he had turned, and I shot him through the guts, but up through the vitals. It was a quartering away shot, and I caught one lung, and the bullet came out behind the shoulder up here, but went in way back just in front of his hind quarter. So it went in at a hard angle, and there was no blood, just a little bit of blood right there where I shot him, a few drops on a leaf, but then that was it. And I started my search, and my expectation level went from here way down to here. I didn't think I was going to find that deer. And another trick that I have learned to use is that after you shoot, to listen to the crash. If you're hunting in very, very thick cover, it might be a very long day trying to find a deer that doesn't leave a blood trail, okay? But if you hear that deer crash, okay, and you're sitting in your stand, it'd be a great thing to learn to get out your compass or your GPS with a compass or your cell phone with a compass and get a reading on exactly where you heard that deer crash. You might not can see 10 feet, okay, but you'll have that compass taking you in the right direction, all right, and you'll find your deer. All right, I was doing that in the Ocala National Forest, and I found my deer. Okay, so blood trailing. Okay, learn how to do it by taking advantage of where the deer was standing, the direction he went. Even though you saw him go down, get down. Take 5 minutes, 10 minutes to learn how to blood trail. So 2 more points I'd like to make before we close out the video. If you shoot a deer and you're in Ocala or Osceola and you're hunting in a still hunt area, don't hesitate to seek out a dog hunter. Go into the dog hunt area and maybe find somebody that would be willing to help you out and use a trail dog to help you find a deer. You'd be surprised how quickly a trail dog can find your deer, okay? If you know somebody that's got a trail dog, maybe seek them out and call them and ask them if they can bring their dog. Keep the dog on a leash. Let the dog hunter do his job. They got great dogs, they'll find your deer. Also, as you're trailing your deer, as you're making a blood trail and checking through a blood trail, I always like to hang a flag where the deer was standing and then put paper towel or toilet paper on the ground. Something, you know, that's not going to be there for 10 years. Always take your ribbons down, but you can put toilet paper on the ground and mark everywhere you've seen blood, and it will leave a telltale trail on the ground where your deer is going. So use those tips and they'll help you out, and I hope this video helps you. Like and subscribe to the channel. Enjoy having you. If you like the content, subscribe, and we'll do it again. All right, love you guys. Talk to you soon. See you. Bye.